No, just me, yeah, 3 of you, yeah. No split votes tonight, so. All right.
After this first case, we're going to case number 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they both get the hand.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yes.
so the third case starts with Mitigation.
Sarah, we're ready when you're ready.
All right, are we ready? Are we
We're
on
ready.
tape? Are we live?
We're live.
The green here.
Live and recording.
Waiting. They're meeting, right? Good. After the pleasure before. After. Okay, we will start tonight's Development Commission meeting, August 11th, 2022, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Okay, take a very good look. This is the last Development Commission meeting that we will have Shannon Pine
Not the last.
leading us from inside the bullpen. She's moving onward and upward to be, what's the title?
Chief zoning official.
Chief Zoning Official. Not that she wasn't.
Yeah, but hopefully by August 22nd. Or
And
you'll
there's-
be here next.
There's also rumors that she's a analyst for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well.
Yes.
Okay, case number 1, Z22-037, 2084 South Hamilton Road.
In your supplemental packet, you will find an updated limitation text. And the limitation text is a commitment to install security cameras on site as per one of the conditions from the Greater Southeast Area Commission's recommendation for approval. You will also find in there a letter from CCBCC Operations LLC. Their representative expressed concerns regarding the rezoning for some of the adjacent parcels subject site. And also has some requests for the applicant addition. Site consists of one parcel developed with an extended stay hotel containing 80 suites, zoned as LC4 limited commercial district. The requested rezoning to LAR1 limited apartment residential district will prevent the existing development to be converted into an 80-unit apartment complex. To the north and east are manufacturing and warehouse uses in the M1 manufacturing district. To the south is undeveloped land and furniture stored in the C4 commercial district. To the west, across South Hamilton Road, are offices in the M manufacturing district. Site is within the planning boundaries of the Hamilton Road Corridor Revitalization Plan, which recommends hospitality and attraction land uses at this location. Plan includes the adoption of the Columbus citywide planning policy C2P2 design guidelines. Concurrent council variance CB 22051 has been filed, includes variances to reduce minimum number of parking spaces required from 120 to 94, to permit the existing dumpster to be located in the perimeter yard, and to reduce the minimum required perimeter yard width from 100 feet to the existing 3 feet. That request will be heard by city council and will not be considered at this development commission meeting. Site is located within the boundaries of the Greater Southeast Area Commission, whose recommendations for approval condition that the dumpster area be expanded and the cameras and security lights be installed throughout the property. Additionally, the commission has also requested information regarding parkland dedication funds. Staff notes that the dumpster area will need to meet city code requirements Title 13 refuse collection code. Limitation text commits to a site plan, establishes permitted uses, and includes development standards, address density, setbacks, access, parking, and bicycle parking, and landscaping. The requested LAR1 within the apartment residential district will permit the existing development to be converted from an 80-suite extended stay hotel to an 80-unit apartment complex. Although the Hamilton Road Corridor Revitalization Plan recommends hospitality and attraction land uses at this location, planning division staff are supportive of the proposal, as this area has adopted C2P2 design guidelines, which include a recommendation for mixed use and higher density residential development along primary corridors with access to transit. Therefore, city's recommendations for approval.
Okay, any questions? Okay, traffic.
No traffic issues.
Now, you were prominently mentioned, and we're hoping thrilled with the application.
We are thrilled.
You're thrilled? Okay, that's plus. And planning? Okay, the applicant is here. Is anyone here to speak regarding this application? Hamilton Road.
Well, I am. I'm Rob Zimmerman, representing the interests of the adjoining landowner.
All right, do you want to add anything to the staff's presentation?
I do.
Okay, please.
Do you hear me okay? Is this on? My name is Rebecca Mott with the Plank Law Firm with an office address of 411 East Town Street, Columbus, Ohio. As you've heard, the property is 2.723 acres located at 2084 South Hamilton Road. The property is located in a true mixed-use neighborhood with industrial uses to the north and east, commercial and hotel uses to the west, vacant land zoned commercial to the immediate south, and other commercial properties located further to the south. As you've heard, the extended built environment is of an extended stay hotel with 5 buildings, an office building, a pool, a tennis court, trees, fencing, and landscaping. The proposal is that we would rezone the property to convert the LC4 district to the LAR1 district to permit the conversion of the 80 hotel units to multifamily residential units. The proposed development is consistent with and will help support the businesses and other uses in the neighborhood. And in fact, multifamily residential uses are commonly established closest to the manufacturing uses and commercial uses as transitional to single-family residential. These are good for support of commercial and businesses and provide the housing for the commercial properties in the corridor. Further, the residents of the proposed apartment development will utilize the significant public infrastructure improvements that the city of Columbus has already made to the Hamilton Road corridor. As you can see from this drone footage board here, these are all of the extensive improvements happening on the Hamilton Road corridor. You can see the intersection improvements, the turning lane improvements, the median improvements, the sidewalk connections, and the multi-purpose paths. So I have a lot of photos related to the drone footage of all of that, millions of dollars worth of infrastructure improvements. And that is for the hopeful transition of this neighborhood to support further development and spur residential and commercial development in the area. So this project will help transform the vibrancy of the neighborhood, providing and spurring more housing and more commercial to be compatible, working together in this area that will be redeveloped. The units of this extended stay hotel will be renovated and updated as needed to provide a mix of studio and 1-bedroom units. That'll be 60 of the units and only 22 bedroom units. The development will provide high quality amenity rich housing. The rental rates will be for 1-bedroom and studios between $650 to $750, and for 2 bedrooms, $850 to $900. Rents will be market rate, but for this area and based on comparable projects, but these rental rates are also very economical based on current housing stock needs and the area median income for the city of Columbus. This product fulfills a need in Columbus for more diverse and more economic housing types. The existing status as a blighted hotel, that hotel guests are transients who will have no long-term investment in this hotel property. This conversion will allow residential apartment tenants who are more long-term and do have more established occupancy and a desire for the property to be a nice property for which to live. The tenants are vetted, they're background checked. The use of a qualified, successful, and reputable property management company that is a partner of the applicant buyer entity for this project will be utilized. That property management company has 35 years of experience and also has 28 holdings of properties across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and South Carolina. This is the first Central Ohio project for this holding company. The site will be cleaned up from the blighted site that it is today. So currently it has active zoning violations for rubbish and inoperable cars and some exterior wood fascia that needs replaced on the buildings. And there's also an enforcement action through the courts of the city attorney's office to try to clean this site up. If it is a hotel, it needs to have security and safety as its top issues and address the criminal activity on the property. So, with this conversion to multifamily residential and all of the improvements our client will make to the property, that enforcement action will be null and void and go away because it will no longer be a violation. We will also, of course, be removing any and all zoning violations, and the property will exceed the building code standards and zoning code standards for this property. So that will help the city clean up a blighted site. In fact, this project may provide housing even for our neighbor to the east, the Coca-Cola distribution facility. Turning to the rezoning and variance applications, the zoning text, we worked very hard with staff in the neighborhood group, and we've come up with several commitments that are already in the text in the zoning application for enhanced landscaping with a competent landscape architect's plans that are in your packages. There's setback commitments, access commitments, extra bicycle racks that were asked of us, which we provided, and we added the sidewalk along the frontage of the service drive on Hamilton Road. In addition, we've added a commitment in the text for security cameras and lighting in accordance with the neighborhood group's request. And there is an existing white opaque fencing that will be cleaned up and maintained, as well as all of the mature trees and landscaping that exist. There's plenty of trees on this site. We meet and exceed the code. There's 65, actually. The three variances are not being addressed by this body, but they're very minor. There's a perimeter yard width and a dumpster in a perimeter yard and a parking space variance that's needed. But again, we've worked extensively with staff, the neighborhood group, and we have full support of Greater Southeast Area Commission, Traffic and Planning. Now, to address the letter sent to the commission members by an attorney representing Coca-Cola, I would like to hand out a zoning map and an aerial map if I could approach your table.
Do it.
Just don't step on any yellow cord.
If they could see it from this viewpoint, with this being up,
Yeah, sure.
that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Do you have a copy?
Sure, I think we have a copy for you.
Sure. Watch it, just get the price.
This is a zoning map and an aerial map on the second page of the properties. On the zoning map, the first page, the hotel site you can see has little black dots in it. That's the hotel site because those buildings are there and they're existing. Coca-Cola owns the vacant properties to the south that are zoned commercial on Hamilton Road, and they own the property to the east in purple zoned M1. When we look at the Coca-Cola plant and facility, we think the grounds look well maintained. They look very nice and organized. We see a well manicured lawn, very organized parking with trucks that are parked in the parking spaces. We just received Coca-Cola's comments, and we're committed to and always work with neighbors on our projects brought through the process. We will continue to work with the attorney for Coca-Cola before the city council meeting, but the tabling request is improper and it is not necessary, and time added to projects kills projects. Here's what we want to say about the Coca-Cola letter. I'll expressly talk about each one of their points in the letter. Because it's been brought to a public forum, and I have no choice, I have to respond in a public forum, but there's going to be no change to our responses that I give you tonight on this testimony. So whether it's tabled or not, the responses can't change. I have already given the client all the information, and I have full authority to make this one thing that we can do in terms of the requested 5 points. So we can agree with one of the requests, the most important one, and the one that is reasonable. That is point 1. Yes, we will add an acknowledgement provision in the lease agreement the tenants will sign that will let the tenants acknowledge in a provision that there's a mix of uses in the neighborhood and that there's a manufacturing distribution plant to the east along the property line that's only 150 feet, linear feet on that east side, and that they have 24/7 operations. We can definitely acknowledge that with our tenants, with the provision. But point two, our client cannot provide indemnification to Coca-Cola to foot their legal bills if anyone, including any possible tenant of ours, brings a complaint against Coca-Cola's operations. If Coca-Cola is operating within its land use approvals in accordance with the zoning regulations for which the property is subject, then that Coca-Cola should have no fear of those frivolous complaints. And Coca-Cola knows how to defend itself, and they know how to pay for their own defense. However, if we ever have a problem tenant, we will remove the problem tenant. Point three, like point two, our client cannot agree to release Coca-Cola from any and all lawsuits regarding Coca-Cola's operations, because what if Coca-Cola violates a law? Or causes a nuisance that needs enjoined, then neighbors can bring such complaints. That's normal process. We cannot provide a blanket forever release or covenant not to sue. Again, I do not see that a suit would be brought in this regard, so long as Coca-Cola is acting in compliance with all the laws. The risks being raised by Coca-Cola in the letter are so remote. If Coca-Cola has outside storage, and I'm not necessarily seeing that they do, except trucks, and trucks, if they're moving in and out, would just be parking, and that'd be parking areas. But if there are storage and they would have any existing condition that's possibly going to become legal nonconforming due to our residential location, then that is allowed to remain and it can continue and it's permitted and legal as a legal nonconforming condition. If Coca-Cola seeks variances to those legal nonconformities on their site, then you have our word as part of this testimony on the record, and publicly our client will not oppose those variances on the existing manufacturing distribution facility to the east. Point four, the building is built and the initial construction may have taken that in consideration related to building walls having soundproofing or insulation. Our buildings are built. We would have those same objectives that the Coca-Cola representatives are making in point four, that there would be insulation and soundproofing. So we will look at the buildings, and if the buildings need any improvements, we'll make them, because we have those same objectives. But this is not new development. Our buildings just must comply with building code, and we'll do that. Point five, the neighborhood meetings and this meeting before the Development Commission is the meeting procedures that Coca-Cola is requesting. So again, we're happy to talk to the Coca-Cola representatives before the city council meeting. We will provide them with the language provision that will go in the lease agreement with our tenants. But we respectfully request that this project be allowed to move forward, not be tabled, and respectfully request your recommendation of approval.
Let me ask you one question so I got it absolutely clear. This is Coca-Cola up here?
No, Coca-Cola is to your east.
Okay,
That
right.
is north.
What,
Folks there, and then they.
where is this
Cook
fence?
owns this
The
property.
white opaque fence surrounds our property line. It's 6 feet. It's opaque. It's a solid fence.
Here,
Goes the whole
there's a 6 foot
perimeter.
fence,
So on the site.
All sides?
all sides.
All sides, okay. That's my only question.
Okay.
We have seen Belmont caskets on Fifth Avenue and many other locations where there's industrial uses ongoing. For instance, the old Kroger bakery. There needs to be a fence to separate all the unknown contingencies that could happen on a residential ground, a little kid chasing a ball, and trucks or hazardous material stored 10 feet away. So a fence stops any chance that there's a debate whether something is a lawful use or not lawful use. Unfortunately, when those things come up, no one knows whether it was lawful use or not until they spend a lot of time in the courtroom arguing back and forth and running up a lot of bills. So putting a fence up pretty much ices that. So that was my question. Does anybody else have a question?
I have a question of clarification, and that's, and Shannon, this may be on you, and that's we've had instances before of residential uses being proposed next to existing industrial. And I just want to understand the legal ramifications of if a resident, a new resident decides that there's a noise complaint. That is to the detriment of the industrial use, is that correct? Or how does that process?
So the process, it is handled through the health department, and the health department would go out and evaluate and has the noise meter to see
That's
if
good.
there is a violation. And then if there is a violation, there is a decision to be for the owner of the facility who's violating to approve a variance through the health commission.
Okay,
So it's unfortunately, it's not a zoning issue at all. But yes, this is an M1 zone property, which currently would allow all objectionable uses. Introducing this residential district will remove that possibility. If they're not already operating a more objectionable use, they would not be able to add that without obtaining a variance,
okay,
which would require a public hearing through the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
okay. So then it becomes, they need to be in compliance with an adjacent residential use.
Right. Yeah, it is, there's many areas around the city where there's already residential that abuts industrial zoning. We do have these with the development trend that we have now, we are seeing more of these residential proposals that are adjacent to industrial. Kroger Bakery obviously was the last one that you guys probably viewed, but there's also been some around Italian Village, right up against industrial zoning, approved, no problem. So I really just think each site is probably needs to be evaluated on its own merits. Obviously, the planning division has evaluated this site and felt comfortable with the Hamilton Road corridor and C2P2 policies that they thought this would work okay. So.
Thank
All
you.
right, let's have our speaker come up, and
Thanks.
we've already seen your letter and digested your 5 points.
Sure.
What else can you tell us?
Well, first of all, for the record, my name is Robert Zimmerman with the Benich Law Firm in Cleveland, came down for this hearing. We are not here in opposition. We do not object to the application. I do, as a Clevelander, object to your coffee mug, but I suspect that you're not going to do anything about that. Having said that, look, I am very well aware of the development standards, the concerns, the desire to invest and improve a blighted property, and Coca-Cola certainly is not going to stand in the way of that. But the reality is, and I think everyone appreciates where we're coming from already, we are a lawful industrial use. We've been doing that for many, many years. And now all of a sudden, what was transient property is now going to be permanent residential. So naturally, we're concerned. So to give you a little flavor, and you probably already know, this is a very busy industrial property where Coca-Cola bottling. Think of it as essentially point B in between of point A and point C. Point A is where the product is bottled. It's shipped to our property on Groves Road, and it awaits the orders, and that's where it goes to point C. So very busy shipping and receiving. There's a yard where the trucks are located. That is in operation 24/7. There are trucks coming there at all hours of the day, all hours of the evening, all hours of the morning. There are specific times when the distributions take place, that 9 p.m., 2 a.m., 5 a.m., and 6 a.m., and these are multiple tractor trailers coming and going at any one time. They're loud. They've got the air horns, they've got the beeper when you back up, and just in addition to that, just the general truck noise. And we're concerned. We're very concerned about having residents come in. Now, yes, we understand, and I've had, a productive conversation with Ms. Mott, and she rightly points out that clearly these residents would know what's next door. They could see it with their own eyes and hear it with their own ears, but maybe not at 2 a.m. when they come out and look at the property. And we are concerned that Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola Consolidated, which is essentially the owner here, is going to be subject to civil suits for nuisance, trespass, other civil claims from these residents that will be moving next door, in addition to having additional zoning responsibilities and potential violations of the health code because of noise, which don't exist before. So that's why we put out what we believe were 5 reasonable requests. We're glad to hear that the lease language will be addressed. Insofar as indemnification is concerned, we don't think that that is unreasonable. And if it's not a concern, and it doesn't seem like it's a concern from the perspective of the applicant, then it shouldn't be a concern to provide us with the indemnification. The release and covenant not to sue relates to all lawful uses of the property. There was something said before that, well, we're not going to release you from any kind of unlawful use. That's not exactly what the words were said, but the idea here is, look, of course, if we're not using our property properly and within the bounds of the law, that's on us. But otherwise, we should not have to face any kind of lawsuits, even frivolous lawsuits, to use Ms. Mott's statement whatsoever, because we have been and will continue to be lawfully using our property. And yes, Coca-Cola can defend these lawsuits, but we don't want to, nor should we have to, because we are operating lawfully in an area that's zoned for manufacturing, and our 2 other properties, which are essentially undeveloped and we're using for sort of a staging area and for storage of unused trailers. Those are commercial properties, again, totally appropriate in this area, not residential. So again, we think that that's a reasonable request. With respect to the noise mitigation, we're glad to hear that they're willing to look at these things. We do understand this is not new construction, but it's current construction. And it seems to me that every effort that can be done to soundproof and make the residents quiet enjoyment of the property they should be taking, and it sounds like Ms. Mott's client is prepared to do that. And, the meeting procedure, well, we're not talking about public hearings. We're talking about, look, let's get some regular meetings on the calendar between the owner and the neighbor, Coca-Cola, and work through any complaints that may have come up. Because again, we're not looking to be objectionable here. We're not looking to throw the proverbial monkey wrench into the works. We want to be a good neighbor. And I've heard from Ms. Mott that her client wants to be a good neighbor. But here are some elements that we think would be very beneficial to promote a good neighbor policy. With respect to the tabling of the application, our thought was, we think that makes good sense because, we're just getting notice of this. We're processing it in real time. We understand it's a little unusual to be making such requests like this in a public forum, but we really don't have a choice. And, we thought, why don't we take another month? Let's have some further conversations about this and see if we can work it out. I'm thinking something along the lines of a good neighbor agreement is fine. And I think something like that would be appropriate. And we would appreciate that before it goes to city council. And I suspect that city council would probably appreciate getting an application that doesn't have any type of controversy or someone like me raising questions about it. Now let's take a little bit more time to see if it will work out. I don't even want to call them differences. I would just call them concerns as a neighboring landowner. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I've been making some notes while you were talking. As I mentioned before someone finds out whether you are in truth reasonably and lawfully or unreasonably and unlawfully using something, a lot of money goes to the grinder, or both sides firmly believe they're right. So to defend you and indemnify you against going through that process is putting the cart back in the garage and letting the horse run free. If you put the fence up and you maintain the fence, you're doing a better job than most of the people that come through and get approved. There really won't be a problem. I think that your case number 1, which is well stated here, clear lease language is valuable and practical in as much as I know many apartment projects up in the north end of Columbus that are right next to mainline railroads with horns blowing all night long and the earth shaking. They knew it when they signed up. They signed a lease. They couldn't get out of the lease. They couldn't complain. And it is what it is. If you don't like it, you shouldn't have signed a lease here. You should have gone somewhere else. I think that can be done, but maybe there's more words that can be smithed to get there. But I think that will take care of those other two bullet points. So that leaves you down to the applicant holding down noise. Do you mean noise from the inside of their units going your direction, or?
No, just recognizing that, you know, they're moving next to an industrial concern and whatever they can do to provide soundproofing, which I'm sure they would want to do for the benefit of their own.
Right, and I think that paragraph can also go into bullet point number 1, which you began with, that there's a clear understanding in writing that you get a look at, be a part of. Maybe that can happen between now and city council, where all those usage concerns are put down on paper, so that that paragraph or that sentence goes in front of any prospective tenant before they sign. They're acknowledging that, yeah, this is a noisy place. And everybody that has been approved, at least that I know of, in the last 5 years for locating near an industrial location has gone that same route, because there's a lot of dead land between empty, rundown warehouses, and there's a need for space. So the ground is rumbling with people that are trying to make all that fit. To me, that's a fair way to do it. But most importantly is that fence is a must. And we held up the Kroger zoning by a month because they hadn't worked it out, hadn't talked about it, didn't have a game plan. I'd like to see this go through with the understanding that you are going to work together, and you seem reasonable and palpable as the applicant to get to the root of the issue and come up with a reasonable approach. What's your response to that?
Very well aware of the Kroger zoning. Was involved in that.
Well, they didn't do anything to work it out on the north line, and there was no line demarcation. A little kid chasing a ball or a dog could be right in the line of a truck going by. All it would take is some physical impediment to stop it, and they had to have a month to think about it. But you don't have to do that here.
Sure, no, we understand. I know why you asked the question, and I am aware that there was some delay of the proceedings here to have the parties work out their, their issues there. That's what we're asking for here. But again, I want to emphasize that we're not looking to create problems. We're looking to anticipate what the problems may be and work them out before they even become problems, which I believe, Mr. Chair, you're looking to do, and that's the spirit that we're coming.
Yeah, I think it's my own personal opinion is let this thing go through, and if you have arguments and have sticking points where you just can't come to terms, you maybe need to have some city officials sit in on the meetings and let you know where they stand. They'd like to see activity and not dead land and empty warehouses getting run down. But they want to do it right, and they don't want to jeopardize anybody's safety and pursuit of happiness. So there's a place where that could be reached, and that's proven in some of the names we just mentioned here in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, and we, Mr. Chair, we do understand. I mean, look, from a practical standpoint, we think it's better to, work this out as best we can before any kind of official imprimatur by the Development Commission. That's our request. They'll make a decision on that as you will, and we'll have to live with it. But no matter what, these conversations have to continue. I believe it's not, that had a good start, and we committed to continue that because it's frankly in our mutual interest to reach an accord on as many of these points as we possibly can. And I think you make a good suggestion, Mr. Chair, as necessary in involving city officials to help us work some of these things through.
Yeah, I think that's good for everybody, and, you know, we're living in a time this year where we have a little inflation issue and some banking concerns that maybe weren't there 2 or 3 years ago, so it would behoove people to come to terms with what makes sense, and if you just have to drop anchor and object, then take it from there. And if you have to turn around and say, look, we're not ready to go to city council, if we, assuming we all say yes and let you go forward. If you're not ready to go to city council and there's some clash, you can always push it back. But if you go back and you're already 30 days down the drain before you even start. And I've seen a lot, over 20 some years, I've seen these discussions, and you're in the top 4 or 5 of articulate people that know how to converse with each other, and they don't spend all their time thinking about what they're gonna say next.
I think that's a compliment.
It doesn't get any better for attorneys. That's as good as I can get.
That's the client.
All right, well, I would like to move ahead and have a vote on this, and I think you're well on your way, and I think you're a part of that. It's not a problem. I think as two people that have common goals, you can both achieve those goals together.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm gonna say again, we're pushing you a little bit out of magnification, you know that, but, you know, we'll do that in the spirit of neighborliness and collaboration.
All right, do we need to have a motion to take any,
The revised text.
is that dated today?
I believe it was dated, I think it was dated back May 24th.
Okay.
24th.
Shannon, this is how we're gonna miss you. We don't know who to talk to get that in.
Oh, yes. It is dated May 24th, but since it's probably the text that was submitted prior to, let's just say today, which is Memorial
All right.
today's date.
The text we're using is deemed by the new Supreme Director. First Director of the zone. First Director, Imperial and Potentate. Okay, May 24th, or August 11th will be the date. All those in favor of approving that date and that data, say aye. Aye. Okay, please call the roll.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
John Engwerson,
Yes.
Cam Wigway,
Yes.
Janice Key Shanklin.
Yeah.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, okay, you are approved. And I wish you
Thank you very
go
much.
both the best of luck.
Thank you.
You're impressive, even though you're lawyers. All right, we're gonna move, is case number 7's applicant here? All right, we're gonna move case number 7 up. It's a rehearing, and he has to be in another location simultaneously. So,
Appreciate that.
we quickly read the,
Yes.
application.
I'm starring as Ted Dietrich tonight. He's on vacation. Rezoning request V 22-028 was heard at the July 2022 Development Commission meeting and was given a recommendation of approval with a 6-0 vote, conditioned on the applicant limiting their ground signage to a 6-foot tall monument style sign. The applicant has not proposed any changes from the request as heard at the July 2022 meeting, and the applicant also was not present at that meeting. So we did state that if there was an issue with them committing to that condition, that they could come back.
Right.
The 1 acre site consists of 1 parcel developed with a bank at the LC4 Limited Commercial District. The applicant requests a new LC4 district to remove restrictions contained within the existing limitation text as part of Z97-094. To the north is a medical building in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. South of the site is an undeveloped parcel in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. East and west are shopping centers in the LC4 Limited Commercial and CPD Commercial Plan Development Districts. The site is within the boundaries of the Northland Plan Volume 2, which recommends preserved district uses of this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northland Community Council, whose recommendation, while for approval, was conditioned on the commitment to limit the maximum ground signage height to 6 feet The applicant has not agreed to this condition, thus resulting in a recommendation for disapproval. The limitation text includes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address building density, building and parking setbacks, traffic access, loading space, screening, green space, landscaping, fencing, building design and materials, lighting, and restricts ground signage height to 15 feet. The requested LC4 limited commercial district provides updated limitation text language that removes outdated development standard commitments, including previously approved graphics restrictions, allowing the applicant to replace ground signage along North Hamilton Road. The requested LC4 remains consistent with the Northland Plan Line 2, the surrounding zoning and development pattern along North Hamilton Road, and commitments to limit the ground signage to 15 feet in height. Staff's recommendation is for approval to be consistent with other sites around the Hamilton Road area that do not contain signage restrictions. Answer any questions.
Questions? Dan, traffic issues?
No traffic issues.
Kathy?
No recreation park issues.
And what's planning, Steve?
No plan issues.
Is there anyone here to speak regarding application? Oh, Dave's here. Do you have anything to add to what the staff has come up with?
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to come and to clarify our request again. Due to the nature of this location, the abundance of fences, the growth of the trees, I have some additional exhibits I provided this morning. Is that available as well?
They are all in
Okay.
these slides, so.
And I can move that here or not?
We can give you the.
Yeah.
Mouse, I think.
Fences are fine to be done.
I believe 6 slides.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I just wanted to illustrate a little bit, the concerns we have really aren't so much northbound in terms of this location because the grade of the property, the ability to identify the business prior to getting to a turning lane is sufficient. But I did want to address some of the other obstacles that have come about by the intent of this pedestrian-oriented graphic, that it really has not much use, I don't think, for businesses that are established due to the fact that fences are covering the type of business that's there. Not to mention that the trees and the growth of those during the summer months prohibit any kind of roof wall signage that's code compliant to be visible via the street for any kind of safe ingress or egress. I also noticed that even with the overgrowth vegetation during the type of construction that's going on, still as you're going southbound on Hamilton Road, that's the largest concern that we have at Civista Bank, is that there is just really no way to identify the banks coming up. You can see that there's another business there. I think it's some kind of a housing place. I can't exactly identify the type of business that is. There's also an Ohio Health facility, but I don't know what kind of services they provide. And it's not till I got a little closer that I could actually see that it's urgent care and emergency services. And so I appreciate the intent for some area commissions to try to provide some nice aesthetics and some pedestrian features, but in terms of the functionality of businesses being able to be viewed from traffic coming in, it's just very inhibited. We also wanted to, in good faith, we initially started with a 20-foot height sign by the, from our client. We've reduced it down to 15 feet. And the third photograph here is the actual bank itself. And if you didn't have a GPS item or weren't using that, you wouldn't know necessarily there was a bank there. There's no previous graphics to show that there's going to be a bank in place. And these are 3 examples of the actual legality of the southbound traffic being unable to necessarily see a 6-foot high sign. As you can see, some of the businesses chose to kind of abandon the fence that was probably provided for them to put a sign against, and they created their own. But the 6-foot sign is down to the bottom right, is just clearly being covered by vehicles. There's a van there that you can see. You can sort of see there's a person standing there. It was being superimposed. We have the 15-foot version, which is what our desire is, but the client is willing to go to 12-foot. They're trying the best they can to, be as compliant to this type of standards they can, but without the variance relief, we have to go with a revision of the development text. And we do think that this is a good decision, and this helps protect the value of the business owners who bought these properties in the past, to be able to overcome some of the challenges with the overgrowth vegetation and the fencing, while allowing pedestrians to have very nice walkways to be able to get to the places they want. But our concern really is founded on that the 6-foot height just is not a realistic standard for vehicles southbound to be able to make that clear, safe passage into the bank. So with that, we're requesting the limitation text to be amended to allow a maximum of 15 feet per your approval.
All right, let's hear what Dave Paul has to say from the opposition point of view. If you give him the microphone, and then we'll bring you back.
Yes, good evening. Dave Paul. I chair and co-chair now the Northland Community Council Development Committee. We met with Mr. McFarland in May of this year to talk about this application. We ended up tabling the case and returning to the case, although Mr. McFarland wasn't there, his colleague was, in June to take up the question again. In June, I'm sorry, not June. I've got my months wrong. I believe it was June and July, I think. In July, we met with Rebecca Green, representing Municipal Bank. At that time, we were presented with a brand new text that, as has been explained by staff, was intended to update a variety of language that is no longer typically in use in zoning texts. This being a 1998 text, they are looking to effectively replace. At the June meeting, actually, we did not take action on that because we did not have time to study it, understand all the changes that were being proposed. It was July when we took up the question again. At that time, also having seen the Department of Division of Planning's recommendation, which normally, as I explained to the commission last time we talked about this case, I don't always share city staff's recommendations with the committee because I like them to study a case with fresh eyes, form our own recommendations, consider mostly our local and community perspective. In this case, because we were being asked to evaluate all of these changes to the text, city staff's recommendation was shared with the committee. And the committee noted that the Division of Planning was recommending a 6-foot height to be consistent with the evolving standard in this area. This location is just south of the Hamilton Quarter development, which has effectively adopted the commercial overlay that has been established on Morse Road and used in other places as well. It has a 6-foot height limitation on signage. There are other requirements as well. As you know, we believe that that is appropriate in this area, that the other signage that exists in the area that exceeds 6 feet, some of it 15 and perhaps some even 20 feet, mostly was constructed when there was a good deal more frontage on Hamilton Road. And that frontage has now been consumed by expanding the roadway. The signage is effectively right on top of the roadway. So we don't feel that argument actually justifies changing from the evolving standard in this area to a more walkable landscape, including less massive signage and so forth. I'm not sure I agree with the applicant that the signage will not be visible from the roadway. Obviously, there's a lot of congestion in these photographs, but a lot of that has to do with the construction that's going on. In the places that the monument signs have been in use for a long time, Morse Road, other places, limited to 6 feet in height, we have not found that that has been a consistent problem. The folks are not able to see the signs because they're below 15 or 12 feet. So I don't know that we agree that folks will not be able to locate their client We think 6 feet is appropriate. That's the standard that we intend to continue to pursue in this area. And we appreciate the commission's agreement with us, as well as with the division of planning, that 6 feet is an appropriate height in this district.
Okay, I thank you for your input.
Thank you.
At one time in my life, I was on the graphics commission. And we looked at things like this all the time. That's all we did. We didn't look about fences and setbacks and street trees. We looked at graphics. I have a couple projects on Thompson Road nearby here, and I've had to get off at Hamilton Road, take the curve through the Hamilton Flora, go through some roundabouts, and go down the Avenue of Barrels. And there's beautiful white fences there. And to me, if this was clean, there were no fences, and this was a brand new development, 6 feet would be great. And it would be an ordinance that could go from top to bottom. It could be planned on. But those fences are 5 feet at least. Strong, white, unifying fences, and they're there. And in the street improvements, they put in the right turn out, right turn in only, so you cannot go south on Hamilton Road and see where to turn. I can barely find with the barrels, I can barely find my way to Thompson Road, which is a traffic light. If you go beyond that silver car, before you can see a sign that's too low to see, you got to keep going on Hamilton Road all the way to Morse, double back through some left turn at that light, left turn again on the extension of Morse Road, and then get back to the big box shopping center and weave your way to get in there on the back door. Dan, tell me what that would do to traffic. I mean, you'd have people that would miss it coming south from the freeway exit at Hamilton Road. So I'm an architect. I believe in unifying and having nice looking things, but we're not starting from scratch with a brand new Dublin where you can program this from the beginning. And these fences, as nice as they are, I mean, and they go all the way up to New Albany, are walls that keep you from seeing that sign until if it's 6 feet tall or 5 feet tall. So my gut feeling is if the bottom of that sign was placed at the top of rail of the fence, it'd be high enough. It'd be high enough to see over the other cars, and you've got 4 or 5 feet of graphics area that you could limit the square footage of the graphic so that somebody's got a fighting chance to see it before they get to preserve, get in the right lane and turn. And we were talking up here before about maybe there's the Waze app on your phone could tell you to get in that lane earlier than depending on the sign. But even if you have, I'm clumsy and I have to see both. So there's more than one way to look at this. And I fear that if we're too architectural and too designish, all these people are going to be standing in line with their blinkers on to turn left at Morse Road, only to turn left again and try to double back. And John said there's an urgent care there.
I've done it. I've done that loop. But I guess, David, maybe you can, is this in the preserve development? Or is this just south of their limitation?
This is not in the Hamilton Quarter area, which is, again,
Or, yeah.
basically adopted the commercial overlay standards, although I don't think they are strictly speaking required to in the code. I think it is maybe in the preserve district as far as our original area plan.
Okay.
But the commercial overlay is part of what we're looking at in terms of trying to have a fairly consistent presentation along the Hamilton Road corridor. There isn't any clear distinction of where Hamilton Quarter starts and stops. It was developed again by one master developer for the most part, and so that's how its boundaries were established. But the entire Hamilton corridor, at least down Morse Road, is, we are considering it to be somewhat, or we would like it to be somewhat consistent in terms of graphics as it evolves.
And
We know we're
have
not
you
gonna
been
get
getting
there
other businesses
instantly.
since the fence, the location of the fence in relation to the roadway now has changed?
I was gonna ask if we could ask staff to bring up the other slides that I think show the fence as opposed to what we're looking at now. I'm sorry to interrupt. There was another slide that actually showed.
I can't believe that this is only his problem, given
Yeah, there's
the
the
amount
one
of change of it. Yeah,
Now, it's maybe not entirely clear to me whether all of the fencing that's here with, in these photos anyway, with the improvements is going to remain where it is and extending as close to the roadway as it does in these images.
Concrete
There are
there?
other images that show the signage for other places that are not blocked at all. They are very visible.
yeah, I believe that there are some nooks that are in the fence to handle the sign so that it can be visible, and the fence moves back behind the sign.
I think the image on the top is showing the original signage that was there prior to your client purchasing the site.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the fencing material that's sitting there currently, the sign is mounted to it. In fact, that was one of the requirements in the zoning text that was being removed. I don't know that that fencing needs to stay there. That is that portion that's holding up the sign. If that was removed, it seems to me the sign at 6 feet would be still quite visible in that location because, as you've said, there is a indentation, for want of a better word, in the fence line there.
Right.
That would expose it, I think, to the street. Again, acknowledging the issue of whether you can see it just because of its scale from the street. I don't think it would be obscured by the fence size.
I mean, it's the same issue. It's what's your visibility and whether you're competing with the fence, but
Right.
I think, I mean, my personal opinion on this is that a 15-foot lollipop's, it's kind of up there. And it's different, significantly different than the rest of the character of the roadway, and that there has to be some better design solution for this than just say, you can't see me, so I need to be on stilts here.
We would agree.
Sorry, I agree.
Yeah.
Now, where is that? Is that the 12-foot height, or is that move the fence and get it out of the way so you can see it from ground level?
I mean, that character is pretty well established with the low signage all the way up, and I was up there last week, so
What would it be?
I think you just move the fence back and you have a 6-foot high monument sign, and you're like everybody else, and you're part of the the commercial necklace.
So the Hamilton corridor, CP texts that have gone through, commit to regional commercial overlay graphic standards, which is an 8-foot tall monument style sign. I believe the community commercial overlay requires the 6-foot tall. I don't know if that's kind of where the 6 feet came from originally, or, but the Hamilton corridor is permitted to go to 8, but it has to be a monument style.
I mean, I don't have an issue with 8 foot, given that situation, but I mean, I think that it's easier to move the fence than it is to have an odd duck sign sitting there.
Yeah. You just gotta see past the fence.
I think, personally, I think the 12 or 15 feet high fences should be out based on what is happening on Hamilton Road, trying to make them more pedestrian oriented street. If we are making it 12, 15 feet, then we are tilting more to accommodate traffic, which is what we're trying to get away from. So I think what may be worsening your view, I drive through there all the time, maybe because of the construction going on there. The construction definitely skews your view of so many things because of the, what did you call it, Red Barrel Avenue.
Mhm.
So I think 8 feet may be a more amenable solution, but 12, 10, 15 feet, I don't think should be accepted.
Well, I think 8 or 9 feet with a fence or 6 feet without a fence is, what would it? If all that fence got removed, what would that mean to anybody?
I think that even without fences being an issue, the fact that we can't see southbound, being able to, if our particular business was where the West Bank was at the intersection and you could see it, you'd know that you have a turn coming up, it wouldn't have that issue that you're describing earlier. But in this situation, even without the cones, without the fence being there, 6 foot still is visually, you can't be seen clearly as you're going southbound on Hamilton Road. And I think that for, again, we think that something like you'd mentioned, I think if the bottom of the sign was at 6 foot and we had maybe a 4 foot or so above, that would be very much, I think, a good compromise. And I think that it doesn't have to be 15 feet. A 12-foot max height is something very reasonable. It still is effective for that corridor, and it's not overly large in terms of the area of the graphic. It's just higher than the height of the fences that you feel are important for that overlay.
Mr. Chairman, what happens if we approve what he is requesting 12 feet? That means everybody else is gonna come back
Right,
and ask for
And
that.
narrowing your pedestrian.
right.
Then the pedestrian intent is.
I think there's a place where if you take the lower left-hand photo there and you lower that sign 3 feet, you can see it over the fence. And you can see it over the cars, and you can see it in time to get in the right lane and not rear end somebody on Hamilton Road. If not, you better have ways and you better be listening to it, because every Friday night, there's 50 rear end collisions on 270 East between 23 and 71, because everybody's looking over their shoulder and trying to flip lanes.
So I would suggest 23 also has a much higher speed limit, I think, than Hamilton Road will have, just as a,
Yeah,
just for argument.
yeah. You're under pressure because you have to decide what you're gonna do. If you're already in the left lane, that's an advantage before you get to Preserve. Once you get past Preserve, good luck, you're going down the Morse Road. You're going all the way around. Now you're gonna stir up traffic issues.
I would say that for the last year, with this construction going on, or it's a year, a little more than a year, that it's not the normal flow up there. It's a mess. The barrels are a mess, and they're really distracting. And I think that when you get back to the character of where it was before, that it's going to calm, I mean, it will be calmer, and I think you'll have that spacing that you're gonna be able to see a sign that isn't 12 feet in the air. I think you'll be able to see a monument sign that's consistent with the others. And then if the overlay's 8 feet, then I think we extend the overlay, and that's how we roll forward, rather than trying to do this piecemeal with people coming back asking for variances for the signs. And it gives Northland their direction for their review. So it gets nipped at the source.
And I will say, we share, I'm sure.
All right, so
Concern about setting a
we're
precedent.
basically setting a precedent as though this was the first time development, and we're just gonna get that design element established. Okay, Northland has spoken. We seem to have input from everybody. Yeah.
No.
All right, we've been here a half hour talking about this. I think it's time to make a decision.
Do we want to table or?
Do you want to table and go back and argue about this later, or do you want to?
No, I think that it's clear that
All
6
right.
foot is just not, is not a realistic height for being legible regardless of construction on southbound Hamilton Road.
Is 8 feet.
Absolutely, anything higher than 6 foot is, in fact, some of those signs there, the Ohio Health was 7 foot high. Our temporary sign is 8 foot high. And I think that those are very reasonable.
Well, 8 foot's not a bad compromise.
No, I think
If it's a monument sign and not, like John said, a lollipop, all the better.
Do I need to make a motion?
Let's have a motion to set that height at 8 feet and make it standard for Morse
that
Road to
what's there?
Hamilton Court. Pardon?
I just, to be clear, is that, because I'm going down through Google Maps and I'm trying to understand. I see a lot of non-monument
Yes.
signs that look 6 feet. I've seen, there's Pathways Financial, which looks like it's a monument and it may be more like 7 or 8 feet.
And again, those were constructed long prior to the current evolution that's occurring along Hamilton Road and the creation of walkable streets, at least that's the
Right.
goal. And the C2, P2 standards, so forth, the city has been promoting. So I think most of those reflect the old character of Hamilton Road as opposed to where we believe things are going. I think where the Division of Planning is trying to help us make them go. I do want to clarify, if I could, with staff, may I ask a question? The Morse Road overlay is a regional commercial overlay, and it does specify 6 feet. So I don't know if we clarify that point, just so that there's no confusion over RCO versus CCO standards, et cetera. I can't speak for the committee in terms of how they feel about 8 feet versus 6 feet. I don't disagree that it may be a reasonable compromise, although, as you've said, it establishes a precedent that we probably need to live with in the future.
Right.
Regardless of what we'd like to achieve along the border.
Mark, do you recall off the top of your head before I look it up? Okay, I'll look it up.
Apologies.
Well, if we voted on 8 feet and it turned out that there's a regional big boss that shuts us down to 6 feet. it
Well,
goes-
there's not an overlay on this.
There was not an overlay here.
That's the problem.
Just to the north where they're applying the RCO standards.
I'm not saying, my thinking isn't what looks prettier. My thinking is what works. Because if you hit it too hard one way, people are zipping by that pork chop turn, and you're tying up left turn traffic all the way down on Morse Road and then running back through the parking lots to get back.
More curb cuts, Daniel.
It's that traffic guy again, there he is.
Would is the commission contemplating specifying that it not be a pole mounted lollipop sign as opposed to a monument?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah,
That would be our.
if it's more integral looking.
Yeah.
Now, if you're, my old client, Len Emke, would have a sign this big and stone piers this big that he got to do because he had a sign up top. And that was the stone wall, that was the sign, the real sign.
Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, 8 feet, let's have the motion for 8 feet.
Shannon, are we good with that?
And it might be that, so the regional. Yeah. Signs located between the minimum setback and the 10 feet from the right of way shall not exceed 6 feet in height.
And where's your location here?
It's south, there is not an overlay there. Is there an intention for there to be?
Sign setback greater than 10 feet from the right of way shall not exceed 8 feet in height.
How
So
far
if-
back from the right of way with this?
Yeah, so it depends on how far back.
We're
right of
about
way.
15 feet from right away present.
All right, so you would fit into that category of 8 feet.
Yes.
All right,
Is that your understanding?
That's right.
Is that,
You want to see it?
No, I trust Shannon implicitly.
okay,
all right, so the motion should say it's a monument sign, not a lollipop sign.
Correct. It would have
Not a
to be
post, this could be a little post.
and that it would conform to the.
Consistent with the.
Consistent with-
Consistent with the regional, which would allow you 8 feet in your exact location.
Consistent with the RCO standard.
Right, so moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Uh,
Okay, please call that roll.
John Engwerson,
Yes.
Pam Mugway,
Yes.
Janice P. Shanklin.
Yes.
Maria Conroy.
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, okay, I don't know if you called approved, but you know where you stand.
Appreciate that.
All right, case number 2, I will read it in and then John's gonna take it.
Thank you.
You got the,
Yes, okay. Got
case number,
Case number 2, Z22-034, 5050 Riggins Road.
The site is undeveloped in the CPD, Commercial Plan Development District. The requested LM Limited Manufacturing District will permit a self-storage facility, expanding the adjacent facility. To the north and east of the site is a self-storage facility in the LM Limited Manufacturing District. To the south, across Rickens Road, and west is undeveloped land in the CPD Commercial Plan Development. Current CB 22-045 has been filed to vary the building setback line. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is located within the boundaries of the interim Eden Run Corridor Plan, which recommends neighborhood center land uses at this location. Additionally, the plan includes early adoption of C2P2 design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Eden Run Civic Association, whose recommendation is for approval. The limitation text commits to self-storage use with a submitted site plan and includes development standards addressing setbacks, site access, landscaping, building design, and lighting. The requested LM Limited Manufacturing District will allow a self-storage facility that is compatible with development standards of the adjacent self-storage facility. Planning Division staff believes that the proposal is generally consistent with C2P2 design guidelines, as the building elevations include a consistent level of finish across both the Riggins Road and Basin Hall Drive frontages. The request does not introduce an incompatible use to the area. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mark, planning, any issues? Daniel, traffic,
No traffic issues.
and Chad?
No recreation and parks issues. I do want to at least mention that we appreciate that the applicant is using some of the native plants for part of the tree canopy.
Great, great, great. Is there anyone in the audience that's here to speak about this case?
case number 2.
Nobody. So we can hear from the applicant, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Beth Seedorf. I'm from the Royce Law Firm and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Cardinal Self-Storage. I'm here with my colleague Jill Tangeman. As was stated previously, the property is currently vacant with the applicant's self-storage facility to the north and east. It's kind of that like grayed out area. So those buildings are already currently constructed. And so this is just an expansion of the existing facility, which is the kind of colored in buildings down at the bottom. And we've worked closely with the city planning department on revisions to elevations and the landscaping, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for the applicant? I think we have staff approval, then no opposition. We can call the roll.
Ken Mugway,
Yes.
Janice Key Shanklin.
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Acting Chair Ingwerson.
Yes. You're approved?
Thank you.
Oh, you're good.
I learned from the master. What can I say?
Just stay back down. Okay, now we are on case number 4. Z22-003. Oh, sorry, I got it wrong. Z22-035, 3891 South High Street.
The site is a 2.55 acre portion of one parcel developed with a home improvement center in the C4 Commercial District and the LC4 Limited Commercial District, which is to be split from the larger 7.4 acre parent parcel. It's also located in the South High Street Regional Commercial Overlay. The requested CPD Commercial Plan Development District permits most C4 Commercial District and C5 Commercial District uses. Would permit the site to be redeveloped with a fuel sales facility with an eating and drinking establishment, convenience store, and minimal outdoor displays. The north of the site is a retail shopping center in the C4 Commercial District. To the south is a parking lot, the LC4 Limited Commercial, C4 Commercial Districts. West of the site is a home improvement center in the LC4 Limited Commercial District and C4 Commercial Districts. To the east is a fuel sales facility and a motorsports retail establishment. Besides the planning boundaries, the site was Southland Plan, which recommends commercial land use at this location. Plan also includes complete adoption of the Columbus citywide planning policies, C2P2 design guidelines. Site is located in the boundaries of the far south Columbus Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. CPD text includes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address use restrictions, setbacks, site access, landscaping, building design, and graphics provisions. It also includes a committed development site plan and in accordance with the submitted site plan and building elevations. A traffic study has also been approved with this application. The requested CPD Commercial Plan Development District will permit the development of a fuel sale facility with an eating and drinking establishment, convenience store, and minimal alcohol display sales. CPD text establishes appropriate use restrictions and supplemental development standards and includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted building elevations. Planning division staff continues to encourage, but does not condition support on further facade treatments to the east building elevation, and request additional information, additional building articulation basing the project consistent with C2B2 design guidelines. Staff recommends reorienting the buildings such that the entrance and southeast corner of the structure is placed closer to South High Street. However, such revision is not feasible. Staff would be supporting of the window graphics treatment. As part of these treatments, staff requests the ice dispenser and propane lockers be located away from the frontage. Additionally, while traffic management will encourage the applicant to relocate parking spaces number 25 through 43 to be close to the building to eliminate significant walking distance to the parking lot, traffic management does not condition support on such a relocation. Proposal is consistent with the commercial land use recommendation of the site of the Southland Plan. The request does not represent the introduction of incompatible use to the surrounding area. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, Dan, any traffic issues here?
Nothing to add to the staff report.
Okay, Kathy
No comments.
and Mark.
Just that we hope to continue our dialogue with the applicant on improvements on the east elevation.
Okay, is there anyone to speak regarding case number 3, South High Street? Nobody here. You got staff approval and area commission approval. How about these conditions?
Yeah, so David Hodge, attorney for the applicant Skilkin Gold. This property is down along South High Street, just north of the intersection of South High and 270. It's a commercial outlot at the Lowe's Center there. This is before the commission with a city staff recommendation of approval and a unanimous recommendation of approval from the area commission, who is in love with the notion of having this use down on this stretch of South High Street. In terms of lots of the other uses down there, this is a step in the right direction. We will continue to work with staff. We concede to the points about the ice dispenser, the propane lockers, and also the window graphics treatments. And I don't know, Kareem, whether those are already incorporated into the text, but if not, we agree to do those things. Good, clean project, and hopefully the commission can see fit to send this on to council with a recommendation of approval.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Just, David, significant amount of fill there, or is it gonna sit down, or is it gonna be up at street level?
So Kareem with Skilkin Gold Development, I'm the project manager on this. With us today, we do have our civil engineer, and from Prime, Ismail, and Dan from Carpenter Marty, or Drew from Carpenter Marty, I apologize. The way it's situated, it's slightly below elevation of the street. This does allow for screening in a way. I know staff recommended screening towards the east elevation, along with landscaping and surrounding. The site generally does sit lower a bit than High Street, but we try to play into that to add to the screening of the dumpster, for instance, and to the east elevation.
Okay, I just, curiosity. I know the site.
Using the topo to their advantage here, it sounds like.
I've been down that hill before.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
all right. I think the case is clear. We're ready to call the roll.
Denise Shanklin.
Yeah.
Maria Conroy.
Yeah.
John Ingwerson.
Yes.
Ken Mugway.
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you're approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 4. Z22-003, 245 Reeve Avenue.
The site consists of 3 parcels totaling 0.51 acres zoned in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District, all of which are undeveloped. One of the parcels was formerly developed at the Southside Learning and Development Center, which has recently been demolished. Western R2 residential district will permit 2 dwelling development, 2-unit dwelling development. To the north of the site are single and 2-unit dwellings in the R3 residential district. To the south and west are single-unit dwellings in the R3 residential district. To the east is the religious facility in the R3 residential district. Sites within the planning boundaries of the south side plan, which recommends institutional land uses at this location. Plan includes the adoption of Columbus citywide planning policies, C2PQ design guidelines. Located within the boundaries of the Columbus Southside Area Commission, these recommendations for approval. Concurrent CV 22-003 has been filed, proposing 4 new lots, each containing a 2-unit dwelling. Variances to reduce the maximum and minimum side yards, minimum lot width, and lot area are requested. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The requested R2F residential district will permit the development of 4 2-unit dwellings, while the residential use is consistent with the South Side Plan's institutional recommendation. Residential use is compatible with the surrounding development pattern. Planning Division staff are supportive of the use while noting previous comments requesting preservation of the structure located at 255 River Avenue, consistent with plan guidelines and CCP design guidelines, therefore City Department's recommendations for approval.
Okay, questions? Traffic, Dan, any issues?
No traffic issues,
Kathy?
No recreation parks issues.
How about planning?
no planning issues.
Okay, is anyone here to speak tonight regarding case number 4, Reeve Road, Reeve Avenue? No speakers? Anything you want to add to the presentation?
No, just wanted, again, my name's Beth Seedorf, from the Voorhees Law Firm. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak with you again today. I'm joined by Emily Long on behalf of the applicant, Healthy Rental Homes LLC. And again, we've worked closely with the City of Columbus on this project, and the proposed development is an investment by the applicant into the South Columbus community, and these 4 duplexes will allow for increased access to affordable housing in South Columbus. So I think it's a really great project, and I'm really excited about it. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, looks like you did your homework too. Okay, please call the roll.
Maria Conroy.
Yes.
John Ingwerson.
Yes.
Ken Mugway.
Yes.
Denise Shanklin.
Yeah.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you're approved.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 5. Z22-016, 400 Alton Darby Road. Creek, Alton Darby Creek.
The site consists of 1 undeveloped parcel in the R Rural District. The requested LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential District will permit a multi-unit residential development with a maximum of 226 units. To the north of the site, a recreational space for a religious facility in the R Rural District, and a multi-unit residential development in a same-unit development district. To the south is undeveloped land in the R Rural District. To the east are single-unit dwellings in the R2 Residential District. To the west, across Alton Darby Creek Road, is a religious facility in the R Rural District. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Big Darby Accord Watershed Master Plan, which recommends institutional land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Westland Area Commission and the Big Darby Accord Advisory Panel, whose recommendations are for approval. The limitation text commits to a site plan and building elevations and includes development standards addressing maximum number of units, sidewalks, a turn lane commitment, preservation of wetland areas, detention pond placement, fence requirements, and graphic commitments. The traffic access study comments have been addressed, and the additional language that needs incorporated into the text is in the letter at the end of the staff report. The requested LAR 12 limited apartment residential district will allow a multi-unit residential development that is compatible with the development standards of adjacent residential development. While the plan does not include language deviating from an institutional land use recommendation, Planning Division staff note the adjacent residential development pattern to the north and east and find that lower density residential on the property to be supportable. Staff notes that the site and building designs are consistent with the conservation of residential development principles, plan recommendations, Ohio EPA standards for the area, and the Hill Branch overlay requirements. As the traffic issues have been addressed and the additional commitments will be incorporated into the final text, staff's recommendation has been updated to approve.
Okay. Any questions from staff? Okay, Dan?
We had been pushing the applicant to provide a shared use path connection to the southeast, as it would essentially make the difference between being able to walk to the grocery store and being limited to on-the-road travel. We recognize that at the public street stub that was planned to connect to this property, a wetlands has grown, which limits the ability to use that connection. So we've been pushing the applicant to use the AEP transmission line corridor that's currently being constructed along the south side of the property. There's still some challenges to be worked out, but the applicant has agreed to language that would require the shared use path subject to any approvals that would be needed by AEP or the Big Dark.
Okay. Planning?
No further comments.
Okay, is anyone here to speak tonight? Oh, we got a question? Oh, Kathy, you might be thrilled.
She's a pot player.
Normally, you might be thrilled. I was saving her for last, actually.
Always the best. We are supportive and really continue to work to have that connectivity to shared use, because we know how important this is in this community. But again, really want to be focused upon saving the wetland and making sure that those natural resources are preserved. So appreciate the partnership, because I know it's a challenge to try and make it happen for both. So as we continue to go through this phase of Liberation Parks and working with our transportation team from the natural resources perspective, just continue to work together.
Hey, she's on a roll and she's got holding a lot of aces in her. You're good?
Yeah. No further.
Okay, is anyone here to speak tonight regarding the case number 5 on Alton Darby Creek? Nobody's here to speak. Any comment?
All we want to say is that we want to make sure that we get full approval to install the multi-use pad, because we were in front of a Big Darby Accord in May of this year, and that path wasn't included. And so the recommendation came later for the pad installation. Now, we do need to go out and find out where the wetlands is located. You know, we've done preliminary work out there, but we want to respect the Big Darby recommendation. And so if we do need to go back out and get their blessing once again, that's why we included them in the language about getting their blessing on it. But we don't want to put in something that they would possibly object to.
Okay, and I'd appreciate it if you would add a comma and say Kathy will be thrilled if this works and very unthrilled if it doesn't.
Correct. We want to respect, well, and we've also had a problem because our neighbor has equivocated on whether they're willing to allow the path to cross the property. So, you know, we don't know if it will be a path to nowhere if they don't agree to allow us to go someplace, because we don't want a path that comes in and is at their property.
But if you're willing to work at it and you're willing
Oh,
to
yeah.
work and hand in hand with Kathy, then
Certainly willing to work
it would
at it.
take a
Absolutely.
that's real ogre to,
You've got the language in front of you this evening.
all right. I appreciate it. I appreciate you working with Kathy and these kind of things. That's what makes things way better. Any other comments? Yes.
Don't forget, public service, because that's critical,
Or public service?
critical for the.
Oh, yeah. Are they friends of yours? Do we need to go visit them? I think the momentum is there. I don't know that we need to take action on that, but it's a critical point and it's already been isolated and spoke to. We're all on the same page here.
We are. I mean, we just want to make sure that everybody acknowledges that we are one component, and that there's the Big Darby Accord and our neighbor who also has a part in this process. And we'll continue to try to make sure that the path is installed.
All right, well, just make sure you drop Kathy's name, everything will be fine. Okay, please call the roll.
We'll have also a motion to include the appropriate language from the Division of Traffic Management regarding the shared use path.
What's the date on that?
We'll use today's date.
Today's
for the
date.
final text.
Okay,
So,
all right, motion to approve the August 11th text that was generated. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, please call roll.
John Ingerson,
Yes.
Kayon Lukwe,
Yes.
Janice Hughes Shanklin,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes,
thank you, folks.
you are approved.
Thank you.
Okay, case number 6, Z22-030, 1138 Chambers Road.
In your supplemental packet, you'll find an email I received today expressing opposition to the development. The parcel, specifically the undeveloped one you see there on the screen, is the reason, I believe, for the opposition. The 1.9 acre site consists of 3 parcels located on the north side of Chambers Road, so in the R Rural District, L10 Limited Manufacturing District, and 1 parcel pending annexation, which will be zoned R Rural District. Parcels owned in the R Rural and Limited Manufacturing Districts are developed with commercial. The parcel pending annexation is developed with single use. The requested AR3 upon residential district will permit the multi-unit residential development. To the north is a condominium development in the AR1 apartment residential district. To the south is a multi-unit development zone AR3 apartment residential district and warehouse use in Clinton Township. To the east is a commercial warehouse use in Clinton Township. To the west is a mixed-use structure in the R Rural District. Subject to the planning boundaries of the 5th by Northwest Area Plan, which recommends multifamily land uses at this location. Plan also includes the adoption of Columbus citywide planning policies and design guidelines. Concurrent council variance CV 22-039 has been filed for proposed mixed-use development containing 180 apartment units and 2,192 square feet of commercial space. Variances for commercial use, increased building height, maneuvering, stacked spaces, parking placement, increased lot coverage, and reduced building setback lines and rear yard are included in this request. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. Site is located within the boundaries of the 5th by Northwest Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. At the time the staff report was finalized, the traffic access study is still in progress. However, the Division of Traffic Management is supportive of the unrestricted AR3 apartment residential district. Any outstanding related items related to the traffic access study can be resolved in concurrent council variance CV 22-039. Requested AR3 apartment residential district will permit a mixed-use development in conjunction with concurrent council variance CV 22-039. Proposed development is consistent with the multi-unit residential land use recommendation fit by Northwest Area Plan and is consistent with other developments in surrounding areas. At the time this report was finalized, planning division staff was still awaiting certain documents in the form of landscaping. Those have since been reviewed, received and reviewed, and City Park's recommendation has been upgraded to approval. Staff's position, yeah, that's it, sorry.
So you got to approve. Okay, Dan, any loose ends?
Nothing to add to what's in the staff report. The main items in the traffic study are technical in nature, don't anticipate any significant issues.
All right. We're gonna save you for last. Fine.
No further planning issues.
Okay, now Kathy?
We have no concerns.
No?
Although I have to say, it's great that we've got partnership with the community, so I appreciate the spirit of the letter.
That was quite the area at one time. Maybe it's gonna make a comeback. Anybody here to speak regarding case number 6 on Chambers Road? Okay,
David Hodge, attorney for the applicant. We have annexed a piece of this property into the city of Columbus, as you can tell from the zoning map that was previously up there. It's the white piece. This proposal does meet the 5th by Northwest area plan. Worked hard with that commission, several series of meetings with their zoning committee, and then ultimately a meeting with their full commission. It is before you with their recommendation of approval, as well as city staffs. We always try to engage with Mark and his colleague Christopher Rohr to make sure that we're tinkering with the aesthetic of the building, have all of the appropriate landscaping. And as we heard from Mr. Rose, we were able to do that here. This is a project that does provide much needed housing in the community with an affordability component as well. So it's roundly supported by staff, commission, hopefully from you all too, as we go on to city council.
well, looking at this elevation, I see background for 2, maybe even 3 American flags.
Just like out the window over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Question, and it's, I guess it's sort of related to the letter, and that's adjacent to the westwood side of that blank, of the, this green, of that green, but adjacent on the westwood side, there's an improvement, there's a fence, there's landscaping. Do you know who did that? I mean, we can't, that's not a cheap fence. There's, I don't know.
So Westwood here?
Yeah, do you see,
I
that.
would imagine it was
What is
probably
that?
part of the development to the north. Is that what you're?
No, it's like right next to Westwood. I mean, it's the one edge of, it's the whatever, eastern edge
That fence,
of that. There's a fence and there's garden,
Westwood's right there.
Who did it? Who owns it? That's, because I think that's part of what the letter.
You mind if I look closer? I'm not familiar with we have not seen the letter.
Oh, okay.
It's on the table.
1140. It's 1140 Chambers.
So I don't know if this is the pet cemetery. I don't know, but somebody put an investment in there, because that's not, somebody didn't just throw up that fence.
Regards to Twitter.
The first part of it looks.
The picture you're showing looks like it's the parcel in between on the west, in between Westwood and the parcel that we just annexed.
Well, isn't it that space, I mean, it's that green, it's. You go back, the one that site is over, isn't that it, or am I?
Yeah, and that is mainly honeysuckle, and actually there is a 110-foot tall radio tower inside that.
My question, I'm trying to understand who the heck invested a fence and did landscaping, et cetera, right there, if that.
There is
Right,
no house there. So what currently exists in the site currently, if I'm kind of looking, I'll look in that direction, right? On the 2 left is 2 warehouse buildings. In the middle,
Correct.
that is kind of covered by brush and honeysuckle and trees, is literally a concrete block building of about 1,000 square feet that is nestled into most of that tree and brush there. There is not a house. We just annexed it.
No, I understand there's not a house. I'm trying to understand.
Who built the fence?
Who built I mean, because there's an investment in that fence. I mean, this isn't like somebody.
But I guess-
There's actually, it's a
I guess I'm
decorative.
confused why they would build a fence in between 2 properties that we both have contract on. I mean, I'd say, obviously, the Westwood parcel is an owner-occupied parcel.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, it is not a tenant that put money into it and then will be
Right.
kind of lost their money. Is that a recent picture or was that?
Google Maps, so it's 2021.
Thank you. I can look at it again. There was it might have been part of the improvements. Last year or the year before, one of the trees on this property fell on the power lines near Westwood and caught fire.
Oops.
And so Westwood might have put up some additional boundaries. There is a number of feral cats that roam around this property as well, and I have a feeling perhaps I can ask the Westwood owner, but maybe she put that up as well.
Okay,
But, yeah, both of
again,
these,
I was just curious based on the letter, it made me want to understand.
I can tell you now, as I'm looking at it a little closer, obviously, this is the property we just annexed.
Yeah.
And it looks like at the time, there is a fence around the front, it's hard to see at times, but the wood just isn't nearly as raw. Now, it's browned out quite a bit. So, but it is the property I have under contract.
Okay. And then I just wasn't sure why, because in the one picture, it just looks like, again, overgrown brush. This looks like there was some sort of an improvement attempt, and I wasn't sure
No.
why.
So this is the final demise of the Aspen Inn.
The Aspen Inn still exists. It is not part of this. That's the 5-story building, I guess, just to the west. It still exists.
Okay.
So,
So relieved.
So
Mr.
Mr. Greer, Mr. Greer's dream still lives on there at the Aspen Inn. He still has an office up there on the 5th floor too.
I did not mean to digress. I just was trying to understand.
No, sorry, I was confused by the fence because it does not look so new now.
Gotcha.
John has that on his Rolodex.
Yeah. They had a chairlift.
All right, Fifth by Northwest approved this. And now you are in conformance with the city approval. You realize that you do have to meet the requirements of the city's request for traffic, or else you come back here, so.
We're on the half-yard line there, so we have no doubt we'll get that resolved.
If there's any conditions necessary, they'll be added to the concurrent council variance.
Yeah. Okay, with that said, we don't need any new doctrine. Let's call the roll.
Keon Woodway,
Yes.
Janice Keys Shanklin.
Yeah.
Maria Conroy,
Yeah.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you all.
Okay, we have already heard case number 7, so our last case tonight is case number 8, Z21-094, 7082, and 744 Wilson Road.
This proposal was considered at the March 10th, 2020 Development Commission meeting and received a recommendation for disapproval with a 3-3 vote. The ordinance was submitted to City Council on March 18th, 2022, but has not been scheduled on a council zoning meeting agenda. The applicants consulted with City Council staff, who agreed to request reconsideration of this rezoning proposal by the Development Commission. No changes to the March 2022 proposal have been made. The site consists of 6 parcels, 2 of which are developed with former dwellings converted to commercial uses and an industrial building in LC4 limited commercial and LM limited manufacturing districts. 1 developed with a single unit dwelling in the LC2 limited commercial district and 3 that are undeveloped in the LC2 limited commercial and R rural districts. The requested CPD, Commercial Plan Development District, will permit a fuel sales facility with convenience retail and an eating and drinking establishment in Sub-Area A and a future C2 commercial district use in Sub-Area B. To the north of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the LARLD Limited Apartment Residential District and a car wash in the C5 Commercial District and LM Limited Manufacturing District. To the south is undeveloped land and single-unit dwellings fronting Fisher Road in Franklin Township. The east are single-unit dwellings in the R2, R1, and SR residential district. The west, across North Wilson Avenue, is industrial development and manufacturing district in the single unit dwelling in SR. The roadway runs that. Site is located within the planning boundaries of the Hilltop Land Use Plan, which recommends employment center and open space land uses at this location. Additionally, the plan includes adoption of C2P2 design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission. The recommendation is for approval. The development text commits to a site plan and building elevations and includes use restrictions, development standards addressing setbacks, site access, landscaping, building design, and graphics provision. The requested CBD, Commercial Plan Development District, will allow a fuel sales facility, convenience retail, and an eating and drinking establishment, and provides a sub-area for future office commercial development. Planning Division staff acknowledges the inclusion of an office component with this development, but the predominant proposed use is fuel sales and convenience retail, which is inconsistent with the employment center recommendation of the Hilltop Land Use Plan, and is therefore not supported. Staff supports the proposed site plan, noting that it's consistent with C2P2 design guidelines, including expanded tree preservation areas to include the site's southern edge, landscaping the street trees along North Wilson Road frontage, to provide parking lot screening from the roadway, and additional landscaping in the site's northeast corner along Cloud Edge. City Department's recommendations for disapproval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay, Dan, start with you, traffic.
The traffic impact study has been approved for this proposal, and a traffic signal will be installed at the intersection of Wilson Road and Enterprise Avenue.
All right. Kathy?
There are no comments.
Nothing. Mark?
No further plan comments.
Okay, we have half a dozen folks. Anyone here to speak tonight? Okay,
Yeah,
we'll call you back after they speak. 3 minutes each. Same rules as city council. Give us your comments.
I have a written letter that was furnished to the city as well as to city council. Didn't see it in the packet, so.
Give us your names for the record before you start.
My name is Patrick Barnacle. I am the zoning co-chair of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission.
Okay.
My name is Rachel Wedding, and I'm the other co-chair of the Hilltop Area Commission.
Okay.
So the comments in my letter, for the most part, I think encapsulate what we're trying to get at here. But I also want to kind of like highlight just a little bit of what may not be evident to somebody who doesn't live there. The site sits on a mostly industrial road. It's, however, a very common thoroughfare to 670 and 70 East. When I drop my son off to school and go home, I drive on it every single day. The part of the parcel is M District, and one of the area commission's concerns was that the M District uses could be far more disruptive to nearby residential homes than this planned use would ever be. The position of the homes is why the area commission actually insisted on heightened landscaping, particularly in the northeast corner of the development, which the applicant did place into the final plan. We'd also want to note that because some of it is C4 as well as M District, a smaller and not so nice gas station could be put in, and it wouldn't even require a variance. The Sheets location, and this is probably one of the biggest cherries on top for this, it will be absorbing what's kind of a de facto junkyard or chop shop that is on the southern southern bit of the sub-area. You can actually see it in that picture there. Residents have been complaining about about that. It is possibly conforming under existing zoning. If it's actually a car repair facility, it meets the C4 zoning. However, if it's a junkyard, it's not. Some residents view it as a junkyard. It certainly looks like one with the quality of vehicles that are currently placed there. So for the nearby residents, this would actually be a pretty large improvement from the current existing empty lot as well as junkyard, which currently lives there. I also want to note something that's not in the letter. The Hilltop Market Analysis study that was funded by the City of Columbus and Hilltop Business Association in 2019, it actually noted a lack of food service along this particular area. Most food options are densely located on Sullivan Avenue. And this will add another food option for late nights. If you drive on the area, you do have the option for the Wendy's and as well as the McDonald's that close at midnight. Sheets would operate a little bit later and would provide a good service. There's a Taco Bell a little bit further to the south that closes at 9. So if you are driving home to the greater Hilltop area, you would not have a lot of options. You pretty much have to drive to Franklin Township or Prairie Township to get something to eat. That's something that we've certainly run into. And for getting fuel sales in the area, most of the gas stations are not very nice in the area. I very rarely fuel my car in the greater Hilltop area. Actually, either fuel it at the Sheets location, which is in Prairie Township, or I drive to Costco. Those are the safer gas stations, and then we're talking about 10, 20-minute drive to get to a nice gas station. This will add a new one in the area, very commonly used commuter road. The same study, this is actually just notes that on page 32 of this study, they noted, and this is the exact verbiage, although there are several gas stations in the corridor, including the Safeway, Minimart, Mobil, Sunoco, Marathon, served by oil, none are designed to a modern standard, which would include a sizable convenience store and for some additional parts. There may be an opportunity to redevelop and expand more and more of these businesses. Unfortunately, a lot of these businesses have no interest in expanding or improving their businesses. The business fronts for a lot of businesses in the Hilltop are substandard, and they do very minimal maintenance. So having a business that has a good reputation for quality, like Sheets, in the area would be a great service to the Hilltop residents.
Let me ask you a question before we go to the next speaker. A month or two ago, we had Sheets presentation, and they were in an area, it's a residential, marginal, not too far from the freeway. And in the discussion, they claim there are 30 security cameras on the property. And I have a question about, is that true? Are you going to have a lot of security cameras as part of your development? And also the lighting level of your site lighting, what sort of level is your standard?
This gentleman is from the greater Hilltop.
Oh, okay. All right, well, we'll do it all together. We'll wait, we'll have that. Okay. Yes.
Well, I can wait until after the second speaker.
So just procedurally, I wanted to clarify a couple of things. I know you probably have this before you, but when this application came to the zoning committee, we did approve it unanimously. And then before the full commission, we also approved it unanimously. We had some community input, and I think that Sheets, answered all of our concerns appropriately, changed a few things that people were concerned about. But going forward, there weren't any concerns from the community as to, like any negative input on this. We didn't get any input from residents behind that they would be concerned. I don't think that the single family homes, which you can see kind of on the right, there's a fair amount of space between the gas station and those homes. So I don't think that there's, at least we haven't heard, any concern from those residents that there would be, a lot of noise or anything like that. And obviously the traffic won't increase for them. So I don't think that's a concern for them. And then a couple other things that aren't reflected in that letter. We are, as a commission, aware that the Hilltop plan suggests that this land be used for employment centers or open space. But the commission has discussed the Development Commission's disapproval in the past, and we do continue to support the Sheets application. We do think generally that this is a good development in this spot. As Patrick mentioned, there is this junkyard, which is
an eyesore. If you drive past it, it's very obvious that it's not something that people want in that area. And I think any development would be good, but to have especially a business like Sheets, which is offering some services, it will employ some people. I know it's not an employment center where it's going to employ 200 people, but it will be employing 25 people. 35, yeah. Sorry, I was guessing, but there will be some employment gain in the area from this business, which is also a plus. And then just wanted to note that this corridor on Wilson does contain other fuel stations. It's very in the vein of what else is on that corridor. There's nothing about this that is unusual or not in the character of that area, except that it will be nicer and in better shape than a lot of those other stations that are there already. So from our point of view as a commission, it is a positive development in an area where there's similar development already. So despite the fact that the plan says this should be developed in a different way, we would really like to see it. I think all the residents are in support of it. And so that's the main reason we came here today, is to just encourage, we want to see good things happen for the Hilltop. So that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Please, Rachel, Wendy. Okay.
Good to see people's faces with the names and recommendations that come through. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question. So the overall area commission voted 12-0 and with 3 abstentions.
The abstentions were all absentees.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
just to follow on with the divergence from the plan, because that's where I was, I think I was no vote, I would probably be. This is a recent plan. This isn't, we've had plans that are 15 years out of date, whatever. This is relatively recent, and the concerns you raise a lot of valid points. Why did this end up as an employment center decision when it could have been, a different thing with the input from you all during the planning process? I mean, what is it that now this is okay, whereas during public input for the planning process, we were on board, I presume, with an employment center? Is it just that in 3 to 4 years, nothing's come and we want to take advantage of something that is coming?
So I will say the Superior Hilltop Area Commission actually had very little input on the overall design of the map. They were given the final design, the basically a week before the actual meeting where they were voted to approve it. I was present and I did advocate. I was not at the time a member of the area commission, but I was advocating in favor of the C2P2 design policies because I saw them as overall a great benefit. And actually, even when I was as a community member who's part of that process, I will say that I was always a little bit shaky about that employment center part. I think that the planners who wrote that in were basically leaning on what was already there. So there are a lot of manufacturing and small offices in that area. And because that is the character of the majority of the area, I think that's what they were leaning on, was just like, that's what's there, so this is what we're gonna write down. I think that was really the motivation there. There are also other gas stations and there are other similar commuter style uses already on the area that were not really, they didn't make into the final design. And I think the fact that it was also indicated to be open space is because it is currently vacant, right? So they were leaning a lot toward what was already there.
So there wasn't creative input.
Yeah, there was some input, but it's more like this is what was already there. So there was not a lot of attention paid to this particular corridor. When the bigger quarters of attention for the Greater Hilltop Area Commission are always going to be Broad and Sullivan. And there's going to be a lot of input on those. And for this particular area on North Wilson Road, not a whole lot of input. A lot of people don't really particularly care, besides the residents who do live there. And from our perspective, versus what else could go in there, which is manufacturing, which is perfectly allowed. We think that would be far more disruptive to the nearby residents. This particular use, we didn't think would be disruptive at all. And that certainly weighed into the consideration.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, comment about the nature of the development.
Sure. So to go back and respond to the question that came up about the security cameras, and that is I think you mentioned 30, that's always a site dependent configuration. And here it is approaching 30 security cameras on site. As the members of the commission mentioned to this commission, it's a bad zoning on the property now. It's an M and it's a C4. So, with an M and a C4, what can go on the site by right without coming and asking anybody's permission is potentially far worse for the adjacent residential users than what's being proposed here. It's the neighbors, the commissioners mentioned that this is somewhat of a junkyard, as you see there from the aerial photograph there on the southern and southeastern portion of the property. This comes in and cleans that up. And really, we also heard that they recently had a zoning code enforcement violation on that junkyard property. I haven't seen that myself, but I did hear that in passing. And really, what we aimed to do tonight, which we failed to do, frankly, at the previous conversation we had with you on this property, was to make sure that the commission was aware of the overwhelming support of the zoning committee, of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission, the Greater Hilltop Area Commission itself, the adjacent property owners and residents and folks that actually drive these streets and live in this neighborhood every day. So we'll continue to answer questions that the commission has, but would respectfully request that this be sent on to council with a recommendation of approval from this commission, and we can continue our conversation at the city council level.
Okay, any other questions or responses? Very good. Okay, please call the roll.
Janice Keys Shanklin.
Approved, yes.
Maria Conroy.
Yes, I was very much on this, stay by the plan. I have been swayed by the folks there, so good job.
John Ingerson.
Yes.
Tayan Mugwe.
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. You area commission folks have made a big impact here and helped shape a nice project, so.
I'm going to give them a big hug and a kiss as soon as we walk out of this room. Thank you all.
Might have to be a case study for a future zoning training where, area commission should come to our board hearings. Good here in March. We might not be there again, but thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Kudos to Dave Paul, who always comes.
Yes.
Yeah, Dave's the man.
All right.
Well, I would say we have speakers, so
They were insightful.
we had a couple lawyers that just went on.
We're adjourned.